Trouble sleeping at night, you might be lonely. Oregon State University releasing new research today linking the two.
K2's Allison Gottlieb is at the live desk. And Allison, we know screen time can cause issues sleeping, but now being lonely is another thing to worry about?
Steve, Deb, I spoke to one of the researchers from OSU. He says screen time is associated with the sleep disorder symptoms, but the study found loneliness was a better indicator of insomnia.
Loneliness, a perceived social isolation. That's according to John Richmond Sy, a graduate student at OSU.
And the key word there is perceived, because it is a subjective interpretation or subjective appraisal of whether or not you feel supported or that you are immersed in your social network.
Sy and his colleagues were interested in how lonely individuals may have different screen time habits that could predict insomnia. He says there was talk about screen time being predictive for poor sleep, so they wanted to see if that was the case for college students. They provided surveys to over 1,000 college students from OSU and one other university to describe their screen time, levels of loneliness, and insomnia symptoms.
More screen time is associated with greater loneliness symptoms, but that's only for less lonely individuals. For our lonely participants, it didn't matter how much screen time they had, their loneliness was remained elevated.
He says loneliness could allow for hypervigilance, stress sensitivity, or even rumination of stressful events. He says there are multiple ways to handle these situations. One would be for school administrators to invest in social events, cultural centers, or virtual spaces for online students.
We also talked about how loneliness, because it's that perceived social isolation, right? You can be around people and still feel lonely. So that can be addressed through therapy.
I asked if there were any additional study plans for the future on this topic, and Sy told me he would be interested to understand if alleviating loneliness would improve insomnia, as there are not many studies that dive into that. At the live desk, Allison Gottlieb, K2 News.
Thank you, Allison.